Yes, everyone should have a copy of the agenda and the 2 staff reports.
All right. This is, yep, the special meeting. Okay. So I'd like to call together a special meeting of the Board of Directors for Tuesday, July 13th at 6:45. And we'll start with a roll call.
President Reynolds.
Yes.
Vice President Feldman.
Here.
Director Michelson.
Here.
Director Coverdale.
Here.
Director Mueller.
Here.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any public comments specifically related to the items not on the agenda for the special session? That'd be sort of a narrow range, wouldn't it, if they're not on the agenda and it's only on the special meeting? Okay, hearing none, we then go into closed session.
No.
No? I thought, oh, we're doing a special. I apologize. I got confused. It's been a
Director
brutal
Coverdale
day.
is trying to get your attention with his flag.
Really? I thought we were doing the Pledge of Allegiance during the regular meeting. We are. Ken, can you hold on till the regular meeting when do the Pledge of Allegiance then? Is that okay? I don't see him anymore.
Have you been vaccinated?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. But my sister got diagnosed with Lyme disease today.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So let's go on to general business. Approval of the water service agreement for 477 3rd Avenue in Miramar.
Okay. Well, thank you for all coming early. This was an urgent request for a mainline extension, and we had Jim Teeter working over the weekend to get to do his review. So thank you. This is at 477 3rd Avenue in Miramar. It's a very simple mainline extension, and it consists of 25 linear feet of 6-inch ductile iron pipe. So we would request that the board approve the water service agreement.
Does we have any discussion about this, or would we like to go straight to a motion? Board members? All right, could I have a motion for this, please?
I will need some help on this, but I would approve the attached water service agreement between Coastside County Water District and Rita and Semprianovo, I don't know, for construction of a pipeline extension to 477 3rd Avenue in Miramar.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Chris and Bob second. So, thank you.
And we do have a lengthy agenda item on this item. So
yeah, I see that. Yeah. All right. So let's, Denise, as soon as you're ready, let's do a quick roll call.
President Reynolds.
Aye.
Vice President Feldman.
Yes.
Director Michelson.
Yes.
Director Coverdale.
Yes.
Director Mueller.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Mary.
Okay. So with the second item, at the end of last week, the governor issued a drought executive order calling for a statewide voluntary reduction in water use by 15%. So we're waiting to hear how SFPUC would interpret and implement the order among its retail and wholesale customers. And we received a memo from Steve Ritchie yesterday afternoon at 3:15, and we wanted to share it with you. And as described in the memo, SFPUC is calling for a voluntary 15% reduction in water use as well as compared to 2020. And so the next step is for the district to determine the steps that we need to take. with our customers. So I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen. So if you can elaborate on anything else that we should be sharing.
Basically, these are all, the governor's request is voluntary and San Francisco's request for the water savings is voluntary. One of the differences is that Governor Newsom is asking, a reduction in total consumption for each person of 15% over 2020 usage. And with San Francisco, they're just asking for the reduction from purchases of their water of 15%. And it's voluntary. So one of the things that staff needs to work on is whether or not we can stay in our current water shortage advisory, or if we need to go to our next stage in our water shortage contingency plan, where it's a water shortage emergency warning, which would have the ability for the district to implement mandatory cutbacks or water savings. So that's one of the things that staff will be researching and working on. And another key point with the governor's executive order on July 8th is that he expanded the drought emergency to include San Mateo County. So San Mateo County is now officially in a drought emergency, along with, he also added Santa Clara County and I believe Santa Cruz County too. So things are progressing, and so we're going to have to adjust our outreach to our customers accordingly, and also figure out how we're going to implement that, and if we need to change what stage we're in based on our water shortage contingency plan. So, any questions for staff? No?
I believe there's 10 counties that he added, 10.
Sorry.
With this recent N-1021 executive order.
Kathleen, is there any downside to going ahead and raising our level of drought concern?
No, it would just mean I would have to prepare an ordinance, I believe. Once it's mandatory, I would consult with Patrick, and I believe I would need to do it by ordinance, not just resolution, and come up with the requirements for the being in stage 2, and what, be more specific about asking our customers, like limiting days of the week they can irrigate, the hours that they can irrigate would be like one example that we did during the last drought. So, and also prohibiting things like, washing down sidewalks and things like that. So, so that's what staff is going to have to consider and discuss.
When I talk to constituents in my area, their comments are that they know there's a drought and they're wondering why we aren't doing more. And so I'm not getting pushback from the folks that I talk to about our identifying and stating there's a drought and people need to be conserving. Go ahead, Bob.
I think we need to go to a stage 2 emergency warning, or whatever you said, not stage 1, because I think we need to be conservative and do the tougher thing now. Yes, it's not too early to step up to this. I agree with Glenn, and I don't see we have any choice at this point. And you'll work out something, I'm sure, that's palatable as you have in the past, and makes it clear that these need to be attended to and set it up. So I don't think it's going to go any way but worse. So we might as well get started sooner rather than later and send out the notifications, etc. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. John, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and staff. I don't see anywhere in his executive order regarding auditing, and staff, can you help me? Then we will be able to audit our customer base to see the volume of water we are still using individually or what we're treating. That's a question I have, because the voluntary, as a couple of people have just board members commented on, that's a tough one because, you know, we're looking at people washing cars and all that still. And so I'm leaning very conservative and very concerned. I've lived through droughts here, and I think we have to take the lead sooner than later, in my opinion, on this particular agenda item.
Yes. So San Francisco mentions in their memo, Steve Ritchie's memo, San Francisco will be monitoring the purchases to see if each agency is meeting the reduction. They will be also reporting that to their commissioners. And then the state is going to look at the data that we submit monthly through both the monthly conservation reporting that we have to do and also through other reporting that we do. So it will be monitored, but at this point, there's no penalties for not complying since it is still voluntary.
I would recommend, Mr. Chair, through the chair, that we have to put that out to the public and our customer base, because they got to realize we are being monitored. But then that will impact them in the near future.
Are we able to provide monthly in our meeting some summary of how things have gone during the past month in terms of what you said, you know, in that context, once we put out this ordinance? Can we do something to report on it ourselves? You know?
Yes, we would track usage, and we would have to. Usually, the focus at this point is on residential cutbacks, but we could do total. And then the other thing is, so the state's emphasis is like a total reduction. So they're focusing on like our sales numbers and production. But San Francisco is really just looking at what, we purchase from them, just our, production numbers. So we'll probably end up looking at both production and sales to see what the reductions are.
Would it make sense to put a symbol or something on our webpage that does this? And I'm sort of thinking like how the fire district puts up the little burn hazard wheel with the arrow pointing to it, and we could have that on our website saying, hey, we're now in a drought with restrictions needed. Or maybe we have a real-time graphic which shows our reduction from last year, sort of showing what the goal is and what San Francisco's looking at, so that we can, when we talk to the community, we can point to that and say, yeah, you can see the goal we need to meet, and here it is. And we have the data from the digital meters, so it seems like this would be a good use of it.
We do have a graphic on our website on
where
drought page.
But not on the front page. Okay.
No, you can only fit so much on the homepage, is what we've discovered. You can only put so much information. So we.
So where is it?
It's under water use efficiency. Let me pull it up.
Okay, so that doesn't even make the title. Oh, water use efficiency. Okay.
And then the drop-down menu should have drought on there. I have to get into the.
This is a California way of life, practical plumbing handbook, Water Sense EPA. Oh, there's drought there.
Mm-hmm.
Wowzer. Okay, that seems awfully buried, awfully deep. I would think that for something like this, it would be nice to move that up a couple layers.
We would, once we declared,
Right.
went into an emergency stage.
Okay.
But, I mean, we can look at that. But again, there's only so much room on the homepage, so I'd have to figure out what to get rid of or what to move around.
Do what you can.
So there is some delay. So the other thing is, we've just asked for that and we're halfway through July. So you kind of have to, so we may not see anything, when we much change when we have our August meeting. It may take till September before we see, the customers taking action and the effect, the reduction in water use.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's a working process. So, whatever you can do to get the data out in a form they can understand it, and as time frame is what it is. That's my opinion. At least we're working it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
Mary and I discussed doing a direct mailer to our customers. So I've been working on that to try to design like a postcard we could send out. And we have
Go
done.
ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Ken, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think that we should be aggressive. And I don't think we should take a layback position if it might be 2 months. I think we ought to get on it. It's a drought. It's all over California. It's extensive and it's enormous.
Yeah.
And you can see the flows in the Delta system. They're talking about a 40% cutback in water use in the Delta. These are serious times. And the way you deal with serious times is you deal with it quickly and efficiently, and you let people know how urgent it is. And I think the second thing we should be very cautious about is quickly analyzing the impact on our budgets, because reduced water use is going to be reduced water sales, and that's going to have an economic impact. And we're currently engaged in spending money on some fairly substantial projects. So I just think all this should be taken to heart. Fortunately, there still isn't a reopening of the office. So while there's still lots of activity, it seems like an appropriate time. And if it takes rebuilding the cover page of our website, that just can't be that difficult in today's technological environment. So I would get on it. And I think primarily because if people don't take it seriously, the effects are going to be, I think, much larger than we want. So I'm all in favor of, hit the brakes, throw up the red flag, and start talking about how serious it is. Governor Newsom on the news tonight looked very concerned to me because they're talking about a bigger fire danger than we've seen in a long time. But it's not about panicking, but being prepared is always better. So I would just urge that be kind of the message to carry away from the meeting. That's just my opinion.
Mary, if we needed to do an ordinance and it was required to do it quicker, we could have a special meeting or something to look at and approve it. I mean, we don't have to wait till August meeting to do anything, is I think what Ken's saying, and I agree. We have to have a special meeting to agree to something sooner rather than later, just to get it on the table. We got to do that, and I agree with Ken. Right? Can't wait months for this. This is like, so you could do that pretty quick if you have to. Once you know what it is.
So staff, just to update you, last week we used WaterSmart to identify some of the higher water users, mainly because of irrigating like every day or 4 times a week, 3 times a week or more. And we sent out a notice to them, an email notice to them. It turned out to be about 800 or so customers.
Okay.
So So we're trying to use WaterSmart for outreach, but again, staff agrees this is serious. So we're again also working on a direct mailer too. So.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to add quickly from a Bosca perspective. So this is one of those weeks where second Tuesday and third Thursday fall in the same week. So just in a matter of days, I will be zooming into the Bosca meeting. And it would be, I mean, we have some kind of preview on what Steve Ritchie will say, but certainly his comments will be very, very timely in addressing this. And I'm certainly, I'm sure he will see an urgency also. I just don't want to get too far ahead of his message. I think we should kind of echo his message. I absolutely agree. If we could have some kind of metric, as real time as possible on our homepage, I think that's a really great idea in that all of our customers were all in on this together. And, we could all, as a community kind of see how we are conserving water. But I don't know, Kathleen, if you've ever zoomed into to a Bosca meeting, it would be interesting to see what he says, to all of the wholesale customers, really, really where we stand and stay unified in message. Would be my thoughts. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, I expect Steve. What we've heard from Steve Ritchie is that these are challenging times. Some of their modeling didn't. Some of their modeling didn't take into account how dry the soils were and how high the temperatures were. So it didn't account for a lot of evaporation and loss through the soil, and that's why the model didn't predict that Hetch Hetchy wouldn't fill and things like that. So he says these are challenging times and very uncertain times, and he definitely will probably repeat that message during the Bosca board meeting, I assume.
So where we all stay on point. Thank you.
But I think, Director Michelson, we should get bonus points for this wonderful fog we've received.
Yeah, it was terrible coming home.
No, it's an asset to the Coastside agriculture. Let me tell you, there is a reduction in water being used because of the cool weather after the heat.
Oh, no, these are summers of my youth.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can remember in the field with boots on. So let's hope we can continue cool weather. But I think we have to notify, we're doing our very best, thank goodness, for cool weather.
Well, thank you. I think that at this point we can conclude the special meeting and move to our regular meeting. So
just for the record, 7:08, the special board meeting was adjourned.
Thank you. Patrick, since you're on these Robert's point of order, do we have to do roll call again?
Yes, you should proceed with the regular board meeting as you normally would.
Okay, all right. Well, let's start with a regular, normal roll call, and then Ken's very excited to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but he cannot do that until we have done our regular roll call. So we will regularly roll and coordinated roll. I want everybody to roll to the right this time.
Director Mueller.
Here.
Director Coverdale.
Present.
Director Michelson.
Here.
Vice President Feldman.
Here.
President Reynolds.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, Ken, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance.
John, I'm impressed. That's 2 flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
And to the republic
to the republic for which it stands.
Yes.
One
under God, indivisible,
Indivisible.
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good thing 4th of July is over, guys.
All right. So now we start the regular meeting. Do we have comments from the public on items which are not on the agenda? All right. Hearing none. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent calendar, and do any board members wish to comment, question, or remove an item from the consent calendar?
I just want
Go
to
ahead,
comment
Bob.
that I reviewed the financials and found them to be all in order.
Oh, thank you, Bob. All right. We'll now need a motion to adopt the consent calendar, please. Chris, be brave.
Yeah, I just want a little, I have a cat on my lap. I can barely move. Yes.
All right. We have a motion to put the consent calendar on, and then we need a second.
I'll second
it.
All right. We have 2 seconds, Bob and John. Denise, when you're ready, do our roll call, please.
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right. Ken, have you got any meetings or director's comments?
The only thing that I would like to report actually is in the summertime, we don't go to the mountains because we don't like it as much as we like the Delta. And I can tell you that the most interesting thing that I've seen is the water level in the Delta is lower than I've ever seen it. I mean, I've only been really going there every summer for about, 16 years. But just the flows through the Delta are so different. And the freshness of the water, even though it's early in July, doesn't exist. So the flows that we're getting out of the river systems through the Delta where I go, which is around Stockton area, it just changed. And the most interesting thing that I've seen is, water's basically free in many ways in the Delta. Lots of people have a straw with big pump attached to that water to irrigate all the farmland. And they're increasing the amount of farmland in the Delta, but they're also increasing the amount of homes. Single family residential home construction is going on. And that's pretty high water use compared to farming. I don't have statistics on it, but just watching the way it's going, the change is pretty incredible. And the feature that we've seen that's sort of startling is that almost all the primary pumps that are permanently installed in our area are failing. They are clogged. They're not collecting adequate water. So almost every farm around us is installing temporary pumps and temporary power stations or generators. And water equals energy. So all I can tell you is that the dipping in the Delta is increasing, not decreasing, in terms of single family residences and farming. And so when discussion comes to us about a 40% water use reduction in the Delta, the Bay Delta plan, I think we really need to be cognizant and aggressive in our understanding of what that means. Because currently our water use is almost, in my opinion, 100% for Crystal Springs. So I think these are issues for us to really pay attention to. I'm not a, oh my gosh, the sky's falling person, but these are just signs. They're real live signs about a change in California. So I just think that the sooner we can be aggressive and meet and talk about water and water sources and how we're going to operate as a water district, I think these are really important discussions. So the meeting I attended was the rare and endangered Delta water supply. And used to be a lot more plentiful, but of course we didn't really have the snowfall that we might have had this year. So it wasn't really a big meeting, but I think it was significant. So I just wanted to share it with you.
Well,
thank you. Go ahead, John.
yeah, if you look at the executive order N1021 on the last page, you're looking at 50% of residential water and paragraph A there goes to outdoor irrigation. And as the governor's office said, much of that is wasted due to evaporation. So what Ken is saying between houses and landscaping, and he's the professional landscaper of America. So we should know these things. And it's quite an interesting executive order there, but it really doesn't really rip agriculture as much as I was expecting them to do.
Fair enough. Thank you. Chris, go ahead.
No, I did not have a hand raised. I've just been
Okay.
taking in everyone's.
All right. Bob, any meetings or comments?
No, none.
Okay. I was a presenter at the American Waterworks Association National Conference, and the international component was stronger this year than it's in the 30 years I've been going to that, than it's ever been, but mostly because it was virtual, I would imagine. I learned a lot. I'm very grateful that our water systems are, we have great standards and great protocols that seem to keep us with less malfeasance than some of our international colleagues. So that was educational. All right. General business. We have our first item, which is approval of professional service agreements with EKI to play in the streets.
Well, first of all, I do want to introduce John Sutter from EKI, who has joined us tonight. And I am going to hand over this agenda item to James to talk about.
Thank you, Mary. This is the water main that connects the Alves tank to Miramontes, south of town in the Moon Ridge area on Miramontes Point Road. It's roughly 3,400 feet in length. It's 10-inch. It was installed in 1999, but we've had a bunch of leaks on it, only on the 10-inch, not necessarily the neighborhood that's fed by 6-inch pipes. And back in 2013, the district even hired some corrosion specialists, Trident Environmental Engineering, to do some soil testing, cell-to-cell testing, to see if there's some stray current out there, because we were kind of baffled that we were having failures so early in the life cycle of this pipeline. The study was kind of essentially inconclusive. They did detect some corrosive soils, some hot soils. I don't think that's the entire answer. So I wish I could confidently say we know exactly what's wrong with it. All we know is it's failing prematurely, maybe a bad batch of pipe, maybe corrosive soils, but it's only on the 10-inch and the 6-inch is fine. So the bottom line is it's failing frequently. When it fails, it's pretty catastrophic. It makes big holes in the street. And I think it's time that we look at replacing this pipeline between the two tanks. The proposal that EKI has given us, if you look at page 6, it breaks down the costs. So the $116,800 is also with bid support services and engineering during construction. So the design portion of it is $79,000 roughly. And John Sutter came out and walked it with Darren and I, and we've got some ideas about how we can maybe save a little bit of the footage in terms of the routing. But I think this is an important project that we get in the queue and get it designed and ready to go out to bid. And if you have any questions, me and John Sutter and Mary are here to answer your questions.
Okay, I have a question. I would like to request that you look at bursting this with HDPE, if you could put that into the mix of cost options.
Sure, I think John could evaluate that. It'll be a little tricky with the 6 connected to it. And
well, you'd have to pothole at each of the 6, but there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 connections where the 6 tees in. So instead of open trenching the whole thing, you'd just be doing those potholes plus whatever corporation valves you had.
Right. Yeah, we could discuss that with John and get
Okay.
back.
All right. That was my question. Anybody else? All right. Can I make a motion that we adopt this? Let's see. I'd like to make a motion. We approve a professional service agreement with EKI Environmental and Water Inc. for design and construction support service for replacement of the Miramontes for a not to exceed budget of $116,800.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. Denise, roll call, please.
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right, John, this will be ready next week, right?
Hey, Jim and Jonathan, is there any idea what it's going to cost to do this job? I mean, construction.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I think it's around, James, it's around 3,000 feet is my recollection.
Yeah, 3,400.
400 feet.
3,400 feet.
Yeah.
I would guess it's in the, let me pull up my calculator.
Yeah, I just did it actually. I got 1.3 million.
I was going to say 152.
It's got to be a number, yeah.
That sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think an engineer's estimate of at least
Okay,
1.
so yeah, we're talking $1 million plus, $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that street looks like a patchwork quilt right now. I mean, I know that street, and I run up it now and then. Boy, it's interesting. So it'll be good to get this behind us at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right, Mary, you're on for our fiscal 2021 year-end financial results preliminary.
Yes, these are very preliminary results. I'm just going to share my screen for a minute. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
This is pretty high level. So we're still waiting for invoices. It's so early in the, in the month, and but we have made estimates and accrued costs, and so this is probably in the ballpark. But we'll be finalizing numbers over the next couple months in anticipation of our audit in the fall. Last spring, as we went into COVID lockdown, we decreased our revenue budget, anticipating revenue decreases. But water revenue ended up to being $1 million above our plan, or 8.2%, primarily due to higher raw water use, non-residential irrigation, and ag use, given the dry year. So we had some increases in residential. We had some offsetting in commercial, but we ended up with higher revenue. For comparison purposes, we're actually about 4% up from last year's revenue. And remember, last year is 2020, and that's what we're going to be kind of measured on some of our drought numbers. With our non-operating revenue, our increases over budget are primarily our property tax receipts and ERAF. I will say we are, I don't have last year's numbers on this, but we're actually down $116,000 from last year, which was largely interest. When we left last year, we made about 2.2% interest on our LAIF account, and now that interest rate is 0.22. So so we have to hit on that. From an operating expense position, we ended up in a break-even position, but that note that we were our water purchases were $605,000 over what we planned, primarily due to we're only using SFPUC water versus our local sources, and also also given the increase in water use just in general, we have to pay for that water that we're selling. So just to give you a look at though the impact on local sources, last year we used 211 million gallons from Denniston versus 88 million gallons this year. So it's a big hit. We also went ahead and just for this purpose accrued 80,000 in bad debt expense that we expect will come through, unfortunately. In terms of our other expenses, though, we had a lot of cost savings. We didn't hire, we had open positions all year, largely because of, we didn't necessarily want to recruit during COVID. So, so that brought us cost savings. We also had savings in our operations and maintenance and consulting services. And, we saved on things like election expenses and meeting expenses. We're not, I think a lot of this, we actually saw some lower expenses just because of being in lockdown with COVID. So, but, as a result, we ended up, dropping our contribution to CIP and reserves was around, 4.777 million versus what we had projected of 3.4 million. So, and that's primarily all going to cash right now. And also, we can think about that in anticipation of our, as we look at our CIP. I'm just going to stop sharing. We were, so in terms of our CIP spend, we also didn't spend what we projected. We were planning, we spent around 3 million, and versus we had a plan of a carryover that would bring us, between 1.5 million of carryover and 3.5 million of what we planned, but number of projects were delayed. So, but as we're going into the new year, we are ramping up many projects, including the Nunez water treatment improvement project, a $9 million project. We're having the pre-construction meeting tomorrow. Hope it will be mobilizing in the fall. So that's well on its way. We also plan to complete some of the delayed projects in the upcoming year, including the pipeline replacement at Strathpower. That's been delayed with CEQA. We hope that we can get the CEQA finalized in the fall. We're looking at the Highway 92 section at the Causalino property. We have the tank design project, and we're also looking, we're really looking at the Grandview neighborhood pipeline replacement project, which we'd like to get done before the city starts their work. So we're really close to finalizing the design on that and potentially could go out to bid on that in the fall. So does anybody have any questions?
Well, two things. We carried over about 2+ million of capital, including some, the carryover plus stuff we didn't do this year. Okay, so that's good, and our reserves are way up, and that's in that also. So, and we got a lot of stuff planned, and so all that carryover and all that capital investment is going to happen at some point going forward, right? So, right, yeah. Feldman factor in spades, except it's just rolled over to the right another year. And what do we have in the budget for next year in terms of capital? About 3.5 or something? I forget.
Well, we have the
21, 22 budget. I'm just.
You just see, we had the,
Like 4 million range. I don't remember.
from memory, we actually, for 21, 22, we had 5.8 million in the budget. But that
Okay, plus
includes,
this carryover, so we got like almost 8 million
yeah, so.
out the gate, right? Which is going to be real helpful in the Nunez plant. So that's one item. I mean, we have this capital reserve and we have this money to pay for all this. And it's good that we're able to have the reserves we do in order to meet this objective. Now, as far as water is concerned, we're using mostly Crystal Springs. I mean, that's like the name of the game. And that's going to happen now going forward, in my view, for a long time. Our budget, our 2-year budget forecast was based on using a certain amount from Denniston going forward. We're probably not going to do that. Not as much as we thought, like 211 million gallons or something. What does that mean to our budget and to our rate structure for the following years? In fact, we're going to be paying SFPUC probably $1 million more than we planned in the next round. So we're going to look at that and see if there's an impact in terms of how we've got our next year budget set up.
Well, certainly I can, we can look at that and even, meet with the finance committee on that.
Yeah, probably wouldn't hurt, because if we have to put $1 million more out than we planned in the second year of the 2-year budget forecast, based on the rates we set, it sounds like we might have some deficit, going forward, because it's not covered like that in our budget next year. So it'd be good to meet, I think, or whatever, yeah, and talk about it and see if we have to look at revising the next year budget, the second year one, just to know, because I don't see it getting better. I mean, maybe Denniston will be full before we know it early next year, but I doubt it. I don't think so. So this investment we made was based on rational water supplies from the rain and from the heavens, which haven't been happening. And so I'm starting to get nervous about some of that may not pan out as we had hoped. Not that we didn't do the right thing. It's not working the way we planned. Okay, thanks.
Question, Mr. Chair, to staff.
Yep, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm just, it's a long shot question here, comment, but if they continue to move forward, the city of Half Moon Bay with the Main Street Traffic Safety Project, with the relocating of different safety measures, if we have to move water lines or fire hydrants, would that come under the city's expense, or would it fall back to the CCWD? They seem to be moving pretty strongly forward with this pretty big project about Main Street. I don't know if anyone's aware of it yet. It's just happening, I think.
In my experience, that's typically borne by the water utility, but I couldn't say on this one.
Well, let's hope they don't have to do too much relocating, but I just wanted to bring that up for future potential expenses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Mary.
Yeah, very good.
Good job having the budget look good. Thank you. All right. Next item is considering the approval of Resolution 21-05 establishing appropriations limit applicable to district during fiscal year 21-22. Go, Mary.
Okay, so this is a standard resolution we do every year. In July, we have to compute our appropriations limit, per the Article 13D of the California Constitution. So it's a maximum amount of taxes that we can appropriate. The calculation is, is such where it's far exceeds what the proceeds of taxes that we get. So it's not an issue, but we have to report this every year, and we have to do a resolution on this issue every year. So our recommendation is that the board adopt the resolution establishing the appropriations limit applicable to the district during the fiscal year 21-22.
Perfect. Can we have a motion, please? Any discussion?
So move everything Mary just said.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This will be the 21st or so time we've done this. So yeah, Ken, you've done it even more times.
All right.
Yeah, so I'd like to second. I'd like to second that.
All right. Thank you, Bob, but we'll take Ken's second.
Yeah.
All right. Denise, if you could give us a call, please.
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
He's still muted.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right, very good. Thank you. All right, our next item is the approval of water service agreement between Coastside County Water District and the Gusti Family Limited Liability Corporation.
So,
Go ahead, Mary.
To provide some background, the Justies have well, first of all, they have a project. They are doing some farm labor housing project on their property at 1800 Higgins Canyon Road. This is property across from the Johnston House. The property is outside of our district. However, the Giusti family have had a connection at the corner of basically Main Street and Higgins Canyon since the 1960s or possibly earlier, where they, and the meter is actually inside our district, but it is, the water, it serves the parcel up at 1800 Higgins Canyon. We were approached about this project, and we had, being outside the district, it's difficult because we have the coastal development permit for the El Granada pipeline replacement project from 2003 that prohibits any additional or new water service outside of the district's jurisdictional boundaries. So while the district can provide water service to the existing water connection consistent with the meter's current capacity, we can't provide water service that exceeds the capacity. So we have been working with the Giusti family, and Patrick has been very involved in coming up with this water service agreement with the Giustis. So, basically what this agreement says is that we will continue to supply water at the meter located at Higgins and Main Street. Basically everything after that meter is the Giusti's responsibility. So in terms of this water service agreement, basically it's the water usage may not exceed the existing capacity of the meter. The district's responsibility ends at the existing meter. The district has no responsibility for any infrastructure downstream of the meter. So the Giustis are responsible for all of the infrastructure to convey the water downstream from the existing meter to the property, ensuring adequate pressure and fire protection, including for the farm labor housing. And they're responsible for obtaining all approvals from the various county agencies, including fire, health, LAFCO. The agreement also includes indemnity and insurance requirements. The county has reviewed and approved the agreement. So we are bringing this forward to the board to approve this agreement tonight.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have any questions or discussion? Go ahead, Ken. I see one from Ken and then John.
I just had two quick questions. I'm in favor of. My question is there any limit to how much water they can take through that meter? And do we have standard rates applying to that? So if we get into a drought condition, typically our rates ramp up as more water is used. So I guess it's a two-part question. I just wonder how that works.
Well, two parts. The agreement also calls for that the juicies are still subject to all of our regulations. So if we have, if we're making, issues, if we have issues in the drought, they apply to all of our customers. The other point, though, is with the meter. I think we put in that it's at in the agreement that it's at a peak 50 gallons per minute. So there are limitations, and we can monitor the usage, and certainly through our AMI we can monitor.
Yeah, great. I'm in favor of the agreement. I just wondered if there were any terms. Thank you.
John, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would like to inform the board and thank you, staff. We go back 3 generations with this family, but we have no financial contact with them at all, or contract or anything. And so I just want to give you a little background on that last question Director Coverdell asked. This is an upgrade on farm labor housing that's been there for many, many years. And if you've ever been up Higgins Canyon going east, the big white house at their processing plant was the brother of Mr. Johnson. It's William Johnson, and that was built in 1870. And there is farm labor housing with their offices in that building house also. So I think this is going to be an asset to the community. We're looking at affordable housing, and I know staff has done a lot of work, and the county has done a lot of work, and the Giusti family has put a lot of energy and finances into this, but it'll be an asset to the community, and it's strictly upgrading. It's not adding more units. It's not adding more fixture counts. It will look like it'll be pretty similar to what they've been using up there. So I strongly support this. And when it comes time for a motion with legal staff's approval already with staff, we went over for my sake, I would be pleased to make the recommendation of staff's motion.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? And Bob, do you have a second or a question?
Agreement, Mary?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Did we have an agreement with the existing meter that's there since 1960?
No, we did not.
Oh, is this, because I'm saying if he's there and it was being used, because he's been using that, right, forever for that 1800 Miramontes Point Road property. Purist McCree Road property. We're doing this agreement to have one, because if it was there and he was using it and it worked, there's nothing that would change, because he wouldn't get any more than he was entitled to anyway. So this is an agreement we're putting in place to have something that we can point at and hold our arms around. Is that correct, Pat? I'm sorry. That's probably a dumb question, but I'm just asking.
No,
why do we need the agreement if there was one? Nothing's changed theoretically. It's all changed outside that meter. That's on the other side of the fence, so to speak. So I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'm happy to take this question. It's a great question, because there is an existing meter, but the district normal process for dealing with something like this would be a water service extension process.
Okay.
And when this went through the county process, one of the alternatives that the district provided to the Giusti family was entering into a water service agreement. Instead of that, with a number of conditions that would protect the district against any liability that's downstream of the meter.
Sure.
And so that's what this water service agreement does.
Okay, and I'm all for this. It was just like it's there and it's been working for 50 years. And this is like different, and we had to make some accommodations and changes to take those things into account. Okay, a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
So second, I'd like to second John's motion.
All right. So
I
it's
think it's best if we read it, Mr. Chair.
all right.
I would move to approve the recommendation, the attached water service agreement between Coastside County Water District and the Dusty Family LLC, the applicant, related to the applicant's proposal farm labor housing project to be located at 1800 Higgins Canyon Road, parcel number 064-370-210. And it's the same location. That place has been there since the 1870s.
All right. We have a first and a second.
Everything that John said, I would like to second.
You're on. Perfect. Done. Denise, it's up to you now.
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right. Very good. Our next one is the general manager's report.
Oh, one of the items we have been working on as a staff is preparing a risk and resiliency assessment. The America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018 requires all community water systems serving populations greater than 3,300 persons to assess the risks and resiliency of its system. So staff has been working on this assessment really over the last year. However, we brought in a consultant in the last few months who has worked with us to evaluate our system. This process involves looking at our assets and what could happen with whether natural hazards or what could happen from malevolent acts or cybersecurity issues. So anyway, we completed this risk and resiliency assessment, and we were able to certify with the EPA before the June 30th date. The result with our consultant, they're finalizing right now a internal report for us. And some of the information also will help us in looking at where we should be making capital improvements in the future. So, James, do you want to add anything on this effort?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. There wasn't a whole lot of surprises because we are constantly thinking about how we can be more resilient. I think launch was really helpful in walking us through the J100 process with American Water Works, which has a lot of benefits, even the effect that it protects us from liability from certain events from following that methodology. They were very helpful. And I'd just like to add that they've done probably 40 of these this year. And not to brag, but they said our facilities were the cleanest, most organized facilities they've seen. So I just had to say that since Mary let me talk, which I think really reflects on the staff and how much they care about our facilities. They walked into Crystal Springs and thought it was brand new, and they could not believe it was built in the 90s. So my compliments go off to staff and Mary supporting us and spending so much time taking good care of our facilities. So it was a good experience. And they will be likely helping us with the ERP, emergency response plan, that will be due in December.
Well done. That sounds very favorable. Thank you.
How often is this done?
Every 5 years.
Oh, 5 years. That's why I hadn't, okay, it didn't ring a bell. It's every 5 years, so that's great. Yeah, very impressive. Yeah.
So the other item that we worked on in June was our COVID-19 prevention program update. Cal OSHA came out with a fairly extensive revision of of their emergency temporary standards. So we had to do major updates due to the change in our Governor Newsom's the changes that were immediately became effective with Governor Newsom's executive order on basically on the COVID prevention measures. So this document, I'd say it's a 21-page document, so it's quite a lot of work, and the document is posted in our website under emergency preparedness if you want to take a look at it.
Thank you, Mary. All right, James, it's on to you for our brush mower update.
Thank you. As I mentioned, it's been a very useful piece of equipment, and the PUC has really helped us clear our easements. Because our easements are clear, essentially that's fire breaks for them in the watershed. They've had great response with the biologists and helping us do as minimal damage to the natural habitat as possible. So we're still working on a couple of runs that have some terrain issues, but literally we cut in with the mower a tunnel, and then the biologists had to crawl in and kind of tell us what we could and couldn't do, and then we would chop off the top branches. And what's nice is we don't have to haul the branches out. We can lay them down and just run the mower of them, and it mulches them. So we've also been doing fire break maintenance at our district facilities. Replaced a couple of hydrants last month. Denison shut down. We're doing seasonal maintenance. Staff replaced the motor at the caustic pump number 2 at Nunez. And I'm very happy to say Darren Sturdivant passed his D3. He worked hard. He's come up real quick with his certifications. And I think that's something we all should be proud of, especially Darren. We're on Crystal Springs. You know that. There's mention here of a wheel. We already talked about that. The News Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project pre-construction meetings tomorrow. We're excited to get that going. We've been exchanging some RFIs and watching it between Ranger and Fryer and Loretta. So all the key people will be involved in that. We're still looking at a MOB date of likely sometime in August. I'll let you know at the next meeting when they're going to be mobilizing. They're basically ordering materials and asking clarifying questions. The valve truck we've confirmed is going to be ready July 21st for a pickup. Darren and another staff member will do final inspection and go pick that up. So we'll have plenty to do once that arrives. And hopefully we'll have a in-person board meeting in the next couple months so we can show you the new purchase. EKI, 100% design on the Pillar Studios Creek Crossing. The BRE has been circulated for review, and public comment period ends on August 2nd. And then we'll start the period for the ISMND. Grandview Highway 1 crossing design is underway, 75% complete on the crossing. The neighborhood is 100% complete. EKI has been making good progress with that. And HDR Half Moon Bay Tank 3 project, we are narrowing in on which tanks and how big we can go, and we will update you once we get more hard numbers. And if you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, James. Much appreciated. And our congratulations from the board to Darren on the good work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Kathleen.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, John.
Yeah, did I misunderstand it? But did you say there was a Muller tunnel?
No, a mower,
tunnel.
mower, but we could name it.
Call it that.
I was like, I know I've been around a while, but I didn't know I had a tunnel after me. Okay.
Yeah, we'll hang a plaque in the watershed for you.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Okay.
All right. All right, Kathleen, you're on.
Okay. So my report's just to announce that we published our annual water quality report for calendar year 2020. It was posted on our website in both English and Spanish versions. We mailed a postcard as a notification to everyone within our service area and also to customers who have mailing addresses outside of our service area, with a link on the postcard so they could access it on our website. We also advertised it or noticed it on some social platforms, and we did an e-newsletter also. So it was a success. We have gotten a few requests for us to print them out and mail to specific customers who don't want to view it on the website. So we're handling those as they come in.
Well done. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, a comment to Kathleen. I thought it was well done also, like all of us do, and I thank you for that. And I thank her. I do kind of inundate her with a lot of my paperwork I get from different agencies. So hopefully you got the last one about household, Kathleen, right? From
Yes,
UC Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't mind, I'll keep dishing them off to you.
Sure.
You're the professional. Good job.
All right. Any requests for future agenda items from the team? Go ahead, Ken. You got to unmute, though.
Well, the only question that I had is I know that we had a fairly large review of all the tanks in the district. And I know we had a consultant, and I'm sure there's a report but I've never personally seen a copy of it. And so I don't know that it requires a meeting, but I would love to see a copy or an update or, a progress report on the tank evaluations. Now, maybe I missed it, but I'm
on the facilities committee and I saw it and it was fascinating. So I would strongly encourage you to see it. And so maybe that's something Mary or James could walk you through, because it was excellent.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, if I could just get an email version, then if I have questions or, need for more information, but I just never saw it. And if it went to facilities, that's fine. I don't have a protocol problem. I just have a curiosity.
No, it's a great question, because it really was valuable, and it was the staff did a really superb job of kind of looking at the situation. They ran a hydraulic model, they ran earthquake analysis, and it really changes how the district does business. And I think it's going to save the district a lot of money. And to my knowledge, it hadn't been done in many years. And so it was really an innovative and well done project that the staff did. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. And if you want to go see them, I'll go with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I'd like to read it first, because hopefully that takes some of the travel time out,
It does.
The new price on gas. I mean, it's becoming pretty wild. Yeah, thank you very much. So if James or Mary could forward that to me, I'd really appreciate it. I don't know if it's in a package like that or, how it is, but thank you.
All right. Well, guys, that concludes the meeting unless anybody has anything else.
We have a closed session.
We have a closed session.
Oh, we have a closed session? I missed that. I already closed my binder. That makes for a closed session, all right. Yeah, it does. I closed the binder. All right. Then let's conclude the regular meeting and go into closed session.
So if I can, so what we did was we took number 9 out of order. We took directors, agenda items, and requests for future board meetings and covered that. Now we're moving back to item number 8, which is closed session. And it is now 7:59, and the board is going to convene into closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiators, agency designated representative Mary Rogren, and the employee organization Teamsters Union Local 856. And we can now convene into closed session.